Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be taking a look at the Vickers MBT and I'm going to be comparing two sort of stages of using this vehicle. First off, when you first get the vehicle, when it is fully stock and there are no mods on the vehicle, not even parts or FPE, and then also when it is fully spaded, you have all the modifications. Is the performance actually much better or is it more or less the same? So let's go and find out. But first off, we have to of course stockify this vehicle. So let's get ahead and do that.
You already got a vehicle that can do lots of stuff.
So now that that is done, let's go through some basic background information on the vehicle just to give you guys an idea of what makes the Vickers MBT tick. So first off, the battle rating. This sits at a BR of 7.0, so that does mean you do face a lot of those pesky Italian armoured cars, as well as Tiger 2s, IS6s, those sort of things, which can be incredibly annoying if you're not entirely sure on how to deal with them, or if you're in a tricky situation. In terms of the tier of the vehicle, this sits at tier 5, so not really too bad in terms of tier there. As a 7.0, that's sort of the tier you would expect it to be at, so not really a surprise there. In terms of weaponry, the weaponry doesn't change at all, no matter how much you upgrade the tank. First off, main gun, 105mm Royal Ordnance L7A1 cannon with 44 rounds of ammunition. These can range from two types of rounds, the L28A1 APDS round or the L35 Hesh round. I would personally go with the APDS, although I also do take some Heshes because they can be useful in certain situations. Now, of course, this vehicle does have secondary armament, this being one 50 cal machine gun and one 30 cal machine gun, both of which are mounted in the turret next to the gun. So that does lead to them being very easy to aim, and for the most part, they're not really useful. But if you're facing vehicles such as SPAAs with open or just very lightly armored turrets, or possibly some of those pesky Italian armored cars, they can come in handy once in a while. Well, now that we have gone through some of the basic information behind the Vickers MBT, let's jump in and take a look at some games in the stock configuration. So this first game on American Desert did really hammer home the point to me that driving a vehicle that you've already spaded without parts especially is really stupid. So first off, this guy shoots me. I do know roughly where he is, so I fire off a shot and I actually knock out his driver, so I know for sure he cannot move. So one more shot, I am actually able to get that kill, so I was fairly happy there. I got a kill and it was in a blind spot, and I think in the chat later he called me a hacker or something, but that was after I was killed. The problem here is I don't have an engine, I don't have parts, I cannot move, and I'm being shot by someone who I cannot see. And the one time I do see them, you know, I think I'm shooting at a different part of their tank than I am. And as you can see, I'm also on fire now. And, you know, as you can see, my tank doing lots of stuff. And, you know, I hit the frontal plate of the Tiger, it bounces, he fires at me, and that is that. But nonetheless, I did get a kill. Now, this game demonstrated one of the major points I want to really push about the Vickers MBT, and that is that this thing is an amazing sniper. First off, the range bars, especially with the APDS shell, are very close together, very easy to get grips on how far you have to fire. Good reload. If you miss a shot from long range, not to worry. By the time the enemy realizes where you are, you would have easily reloaded and fired off another shot, so that is not an issue. And as you would have seen with that first kill a few seconds ago, the APDS round at long ranges still does not have an issue tearing through most things. Of course, there are exceptions. For example, the Tiger 2's frontal armor and the IS6 in general. High angles or heavy armor don't suit it so well. But as you can see, there's another kill. Long range, hit the turret of that enemy tank, knocked out his crew. So again, definitely very good at long range. In the fast reload, I'm already reloaded. Now as you can see, I'm about to aim up on a T-34, I fire a shot, and I miss. But nonetheless, the gun reloads incredibly fast, and, you know, I think he's going to move through there, but he doesn't. He actually reverses outwards, so I can just aim back, fire off another shot, and, you know, this is a perfect example. By the time he actually gets his gun on me and works out where I am, I fired off another shot, knocked out his gunner, set him on fire, and that will actually give me a kill in just a sec. Here's a Panther, and yet again, fast succession with the shots, knock out the driver, aim in the correct place to knock out the turret crew, shot is reloaded, fire off, and that's another kill. 2 kills in a row there for that T-34 and that Panther. Unfortunately, Panther 2 took me out. He was down there, he saw me, and I couldn't reload quite in time. Nonetheless, though, a decent game, showing off sort of the sniping capabilities of the Vickers MBT. This game, bit more pushy. Start off by killing an Italian armoured car, something I was definitely happy with. If you let those things roam around, they will be a real thorn in your side for the whole game. I then got an assist on a Panzer IV. Next up, I got sort of a blind shot on a Whirlwind, but, you know, they can be dangerous as well, so it's good to take it out. And something's firing at me. What could that be? Oh, it is, isn't it? It's one of those pesky little mouse droids. Now, I missed my first shot. Luckily, fast reload, and also another friendly tank's moving up on him. He has no choice but to reverse, so I wait to the opportune moment, and there we go. He is taken out. So, yet again, decent kill on an enemy there, and again, those things, you want to take him out of the field, because tanks like the Vickers MBT will generally have fairly light armor, so can be fairly easily killed by those things. Now, my last kill of the game was on a Panzer III. I was then killed by a T-34, but overall, not a bad game. Certainly not bad whatsoever. It can definitely be played fairly effectively if you know what you're doing. Just keep in mind that the armor is pretty much trash and will not protect you from anything, and that 3 of the 4 crew members are huddled together in the turret, so one shot to the turret, that's basically an instant death. So do keep your eyes out, just make sure you're clear, try and use sniping positions to effectively use that gun, and you shouldn't have any issues. So now we are going to be using the vehicle completely spaded, fully upgraded. This means we'll have access to mods such as parts, FPE, crew replenishment, all of which will massively increase our survivability. So let's go and take a look at a few games and see how it compares to the stock gameplay that we just looked at. So our first game on Japan, I start off by facing a Tiger 2P. This is the easiest of the 2 Tiger 2s to take out. If you hit the lower half of the frontal turret plate, it should explode inwards and knock them out. So as you can see, that went fairly effectively and knocked out him, giving me my first kill. Second kill, Ru251. He had no idea I was here. Knocked out the turret crew so that he can no longer shoot. Knocked out the cannon breach. He can no longer fire at me. So all I do, pump a shot into him, and that is him dead. And again, showcasing that very nice reload that we have there on the Vickers MBT. Next one, I was climbing up this hill. There is a Waffenträger. So what I do is I get my gun aimed up on him, fire one shot in. He cannot shoot at me now, and even if he wanted to, he couldn't because, you know, turret rotation too slow, and I reload very fast, so I was able to pump another one into him. And my final kill was actually on a Coelian, which is now called something else, Flak Panzer 341 or something, but I just still call it the Coelian. Nonetheless, though, he was moving along. I fire a shot in, seemed to blow up his ammunition, giving me my 4th kill of the game, and that was the end of that game. 4 kills, and I didn't die, so I was actually fairly happy with that one. This game was on the map the Maginot Line, a map that a lot of people seem to not like so much, although at least for when you're using the MBT, there are some nice sniping positions. For example, this position overlooking the A point, you can back down very fast, and most of the time you can see the enemy, whereas they can't actually shoot at you and hit you, which is rather useful. As you can see, I'm taking out this AMX-50 Foch right now. I've set him on fire. I do actually back down and just do a quick sweep with my binoculars for a minute, just to make sure that I am not being flanked around, or make sure there's not any enemies getting too close, because of course with this tank, as I've said before, very weak armor. You do need to be incredibly careful, but nonetheless, another shot finishes the Foch off, and yeah, 2nd kill of the game. I do then actually run out of ammunition. Good rule of thumb, do take a lot of ammo. This thing, very fast reload, you will run out quick. I do get set on fire, I do have parts in FPE, but at this point, it's not really useful. I'm going to die anyway, so, you know, a decent game. 2 kills, 3 assists, not too bad, but again, I could have done better if I took more ammo. Straight into another game on a map that people seem not to like for some reason, this time Vietnam, and this game really did demonstrate how this vehicle can actually, on occasion, be fairly decent at close quarters and take a few hits. I take multiple hits from both a Panther II and an M47, and yet I do end up doing pretty well. The M47 gets knocked out and I get an assist. The Panther II, he's just sitting there repairing the parts of his tank that I just damaged. And luckily for me, I'm actually able to get mobile before he can, and despite not really having proper turret rotation or anything, I can get my gun on target before he does. I move out the way of his gun. He has no chance at this point. All it takes is one shot, and that is my first kill of the game. So again, I survived being ambushed by 2 enemy tanks, so survivability is not too bad. Now next up, an Italian SPAA comes along. He's through the smoke. I know he's there, so I just aim up. All I have to do is wait. And there he is. So I've taken out one of his crew members. He tries to get away, but this thing's reload is just, you know, no chance for him. So there we go. And I do then attack a Yag Tiger. I do knock out 2 crew members, but his gunner's still alive, and he's able to kill me. So then that's the end of that game. And now we move on to another game in Vietnam. So this game is mostly focusing on base captures rather than focusing on kills. So I start off by capturing the A point, then I move on and capture the B point. So, you know, fairly decent there, 2 bases already, and I actually used the B point to get crew replenishment for the crew member that I lost earlier in the game. Now, on the way to the C point, near the end of the game, I do find a Russian tank. So after steadying my gun and getting nicely aimed, I fire a single shot, which gives me my only kill of that game, and shortly after that I get into the C point, capture that, and that is the end of the game. And in that game I did not die, and I captured every single base on the map. So, you know, a little game I was fairly happy with there, to be honest. So the final game of this video is on the map Middle East. Now I start off by moving up this hill. I flanked around, and I see one of those pesky Italian armor cars on my side of the map. So I decide to do the logical thing and snipe him. I wouldn't want him attacking my team from behind, so I knock out one of these people. He tries to get away, but you know, that lightning fast reload, and yeah, one more shot is all it took, and he is taken out. Next up, I do see a Waffentrager near their spawn moving away, and I do take the chance to take him out. Next up, I'm in my binoculars looking around, and I actually spot a Leo on a hill, camping, basically just sniping. He's on a sniping hill, so I fire a shot in. He tries to get away, but yet again, fast reload allows me to pump another shot in before he can run away, and that gives me my 3rd kill of the game. Yet again showing just how useful that fast reload really is. Now next up, I'm moving on the base, and off in the distance I see what looks to be an IS-2, who I fire a shot at, and that gives me my 4th and final kill of the game. Now I was actually killed by one of those pesky little Italian armoured cars. I was killed as I was coming up to the C point. He was hiding off in between some structures, and, you know, as I was going down the steps, he fired a shell at me, and Heat FS shell versus Vickers MBT doesn't end well for the MBT. Okay, so in this video I have looked at both the stock configuration and the spaded configuration, and after looking at them both, I really have to say there isn't a massive difference between the performance of the two. The major noticeable thing would be that when you're spaded, you have a very slight increase in general mobility, slightly higher speed, mostly acceleration is slightly better. Also, the transmission is better. For example, turning on the spot is slightly faster when you're spaded. So those kind of things can be useful on, for example, steep inclines or in urban areas. Now, I really would say that the mobility mods of the vehicle are the kind of things you would want to go for early on. They really do help when you're, for example, sniping, like I was on the Maginot Line in an earlier game today. And as you saw, I was up on the hill, and I needed to move forward and backwards on the hill fairly quickly to hide from the enemy or get my gun on the enemy. So those kind of mods can be useful for those situations. Now, something that does go without mentioning, of course, is the addition of parts, FPE, smoke grenades, and crew replenishment, all of which are worth having, all of which will help you very much in games. Smoke grenades cover your location as you're repairing. Parts and FPE, well, it's fairly obvious why you need them. If you get hit, you can repair your vehicle. If you set on fire, you can put out the fire. Crew replenishment, this does have a 4-person crew, so the survivability is better than some tanks. But nonetheless, if you lose a crew member, it is always nice to get one back and just sort of increase the amount of survivability you have. The more crew you have, the less likely it is one shot is going to kill you. That's the way I think of it, at least. Now, of course, there are smaller mods that do give more minimal improvements, such as an improvement in the turret rotation, although it's fairly minimal, so I'm not really going to talk about them. I feel like the gameplay that I've shown you does give a decent representation of how the gameplay is actually fairly similar. There's not a massive change in the gameplay between stock and spaded. Anyway though, I am going to end the video there. So first off, if you look in the description, there are links to my Discord server, Twitter profile, Live.War Thunder profile, and Patreon profile. So do give all of them a look. If you come over to the Discord server, everyone is welcome. We just generally chat about War Thunder related stuff and various other game related stuff. So do come in and have a chat with us. If you want to comment below about anything you've seen in today's video, do feel free and I would be very happy to discuss that with you. Anyway though, thank you a lot for watching. If you did enjoy though, please consider smashing the like button, maybe even subscribe to the channel if you have not already. That would be very much appreciated. Thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.